Dion Krupa, and I'm the program manager at the InnovATEBIO grant in Austin. Let me start over at Austin Community College in Austin, Texas. And this series and also InnovATEBIO are funded by the National Science Foundation. So before we begin, I just have a few housekeeping announcements. Today's presentations will be back-to-back, followed by a Q&A at the end. Please feel free to use the chat box to jot down questions that you may have. Additional information on both of these ATE project talks are located on the InnovATEBIO website, which we will drop in the chat as well. And then lastly, during the Q&A, we will drop the link for the evaluation. Please complete that at your earliest convenience. At this time, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our first Project Talk speakers, Dr. Dylan Bolsecco. Dylan is a Senior Vice President and Principal Scientist at Institute for Future Intelligence, and joining him as his intern, Arman Jamaluddin. For those of you who joined us for the February 7th Project Talks, Dylan introduced NextLab, which features generative AI tools for personalized learning known as PAT and Pilot. Welcome, Dylan and Arman.
Thank you. I'll spend a minute just kind of putting things in context. As we mentioned, NextLab is a part of a project that's funded by the ATE for an antibody engineering curriculum development program at Kapiolani Community College, run by John Baristecki and Brian Hahn. So we won't talk about the electronic lab notebook or the ELN feature of NextLab this week, and we're really focused on the content management and the Gen AI tools. And we're really at the beginning of the development of this. And so there are a number of things we want to move towards in the future. So any of your feedback would be awesome. At this point, I'll turn it over to Arman, who's the expert in this and who is doing all of the development on these generative AI tools.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'll just share my screen. I'll get my presentation ready. So I want to talk about PAT. That's what I've been working on, the personalized academic tutor that we've built and integrated into NextLab. So first, I'll talk a little bit about the mission that we had when building PAT. So we know that students have a limited access to support and tutoring, but with PAT, students can get access to 24/7 tutoring with AI technologies. But we know that there is some skepticism relating to AI technologies and the accuracy, which is why we focused a lot on accuracy. We wanted to make sure that it was very accurate. And we'll talk a little bit more on how we did that later on in the presentation. So what is PAT? PAT is a 24/7 AI chatbot for course-related questions. And the main feature that PAT has is that it learns from course materials that educators use to teach their courses and to provide relevant answers to students. It's also integrated and accessible via NextLab. And we'll talk about all of this a little bit more as we go on in the presentation. So here's how the NextLab and PAT work together. So PAT is actually integrated within NextLab. And if, as an educator, if you want to use PAT, you would have to have a NextLab course. And these NextLab courses are split into sections or chapters. We call them course materials within NextLab, but for this presentation, I'll just call them chapters. So each chapter in a course could be like, a chapter per week, a chapter per topic that you have in your course. However that works, but you have chapters in NextLab, and these chapters can have a chatbot created for them. So educators provide the NextLab team with the course materials as files that can be used as a knowledge base for a chatbot. So what I mean by course materials is maybe you have a couple presentations that you use to teach a specific topic in your course. you can add that to a chapter of your NextLab course and also fill out a form in NextLab to create an AI powered chatbot and just provide us with the files, and we will automatically integrate the chatbot with your chapter for your course. One thing we also want to mention is that Pat can be integrated into your personal websites using a script tag. You just have to work with the NextLab team, and we'll create the chatbot and then help you integrate it into your own personal website using a script tag that we've created. So here I have a video of a demonstration, but I think I wanted to do like a live demonstration. So let me just open up NextLab a second. So I'll share my screen once I have it opened up.
While Armand is doing that, maybe I'll just add that, although we are working with online large language models at this point, I think specifically Gemini and OpenAI, it is also possible to do all of this with local models that's running just on your machines or your school's machines. So it's not really available and you're not putting data out into the internet. It's really managed locally. So that's something we know has been done by others. And it's a project that we're going to start working on as well in the summer.
So here I'm in NextLab. I have it opened up. I'm just in the home page of NextLab, and I'm in a student view. I'm already logged in as a student. So here, when I open up this chatbot, as you can see, a chatbot interface opens up, and this is the first introduction to Pat. So here, this Pat chatbot has just been trained off of a document about NextLab. We just provided it, and it can answer questions about how to navigate NextLab. So I can ask, like, how do I add a course? How do I add a course? And it will be able to answer questions specific to how to navigate NextLab. So as you can see, it provides an answer. We also have a view summary feature, but we'll show that off more when we show how the course related chatbots are working. So as a student, I'll navigate over to the course materials to open up some of the courses that I'm enrolled in. So here I'm enrolled in 3 courses. This antibody engineering example course that we've created, a public course that all users of NextLab are in, and also a RAG 101 course. So I'll just be demonstrating the chatbot within the antibody engineering course. So when I open up this course, as you can see, I see all of the course materials or chapters within the course. Here we just have one chapter, an introductory chapter on basic molecular biology. But in a real course, you will likely have many, many chapters, and each of these chapters will have its own or could have its own AI-powered chatbot. You would just have to fill out the form to create it. So when I open up this chapter, as you can see, I can view all of the course material and interact and learn regularly through the chapters. But I also can open up Pat while I'm learning and ask any questions about this specific chapter. So since we've already created a chatbot for this chapter, automatically the chatbot for this chapter opens up and I can ask any questions I have. So I see a section about restriction enzymes. So I'll just ask, what is a restriction enzyme, for example? And it will be able to provide students with an accurate answer and provide a lot of context and details. So we can also view a summary of all the information that we provided to the chatbot, all the information in this chapter. So as you can see, it's a very detailed summary that was created using Gemini. So now I'm going to end the conversation with Pat, but basically what I wanted to demonstrate here was that NextLab is split into these like a course in NextLab is split into multiple chapters or course materials. You can open up a chapter and then you'll have access to a chatbot if it exists for that course material. I'm also going to show one more example. In this RAG 101 course, there is a chapter called Introduction to RAG. So when I open up the chatbot here, I'm still in the NextLab home really. So it'll be a chatbot about NextLab. But when I open up the RAG course material and open up the chatbot, it'll be a chatbot that can answer questions about RAG specifically. So as I navigate through NextLab, the chatbots that are active will update. And yeah, so that's all I have for the demonstration. I'll get back to the presentation now.
Well, one thing I'll add is Armand has also developed this so it extracts content out of images. So if you have PowerPoints with images, it will actually attempt to extract information from those images as well.
So let's talk a little bit more about how PAT works, the technology behind PAT. So it's powered by something called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. And basically what that is we extract all of the text from a file that's up from the files that you upload. Let's say maybe you have 3 or 4 files for a topic or a course material, and you fill out the form to create the chatbot for that course. We extract all of the text and images from your files that you provided, and we store it in a database where basically it's called a vector database, and you can ask a question to that vector database and it will search. Like, let's say a student asks a question like, for example, what is a restriction enzyme? What the vector database does is it searches through its all the text that you've provided it and finds like the text chunks, finds a part of the text that contains the answer and contains the answer to your question. It provides the most relevant parts of the text that contain the answer to the question. But this is these text chunks are like raw. They're not very well explained. So we then pass that text chunk to an LLM like ChatGPT or Gemini, where it's then processed and turned into a detailed answer that is really descriptive and helps engage and interact with the student conversationally. So the LLM really just is for the conversational feature and explaining it clearly, but really the answer to the question is found within the database of text that we create when we extract all the text from the documents, store in the database, and then we can even filter those documents even further. So to further emphasize this, we want to explain the difference between an LLM and a RAG application like PAT. So with an LLM, you just have a query, any question, and then the LLM looks through its very large knowledge base and provides an output. So the only issue with this is that it may not provide the most relevant information to your course, and it may not be fully accurate. But with a RAG application, it looks through the vector database and provides the information that actually exists in your course. So the one thing that we did notice was that it almost never provides information that's outside of the course. So if you were to ask a question that doesn't exist in the vector database, then almost most likely won't answer that question. So that's good because it won't provide inaccurate information, and most likely will just provide stuff straight from the course material that you've provided it. So the file support that we have for PAT are PowerPoint files, PDF files, text files, and docx files. So when you fill out a form as an educator to create a chatbot, keep in mind that these are the files that we support. We're likely going to extend this later on, but this should basically provide an idea of what we support. So we also focused on accuracy. We wanted to make sure that PAT was very accurate. So what we did is we built an evaluation data set on concepts and questions in the Microbiology 240 course. And we tested multiple RAG systems with this content and questions. and selected the best performing system to power PAT. And we're continuing to do this. We're trying to expand the evaluation data set and test more RAG systems. But we just placed a very big emphasis on accuracy and are continuing to improve it. But we've seen pretty good performance and accuracy so far. So why use PAT? Why should a student use PAT? So the NextLab integration in PAT, within NextLab, PAT is integrated. So that just allows for instant chatbot access. Chatbots also use RAG to deliver accurate, simplified, and course-based answers. So it's just, more accurate. It's just more relevant to your course. And it also enhances student learning by allowing them to engage with their course materials conversationally. Also, students are often overloaded with information without PAT. They just have a lot of content provided to them, and it's difficult to efficiently learn from the materials that they're provided. But with PAT, all of that content is already ingested by PAT, and interaction with it allows for an engaging method of learning as well as an efficient one. We also have conversation tracking. This is primarily a tool for educational researchers, and they can monitor interactions with chatbots to assess the impact of PAT and the performance of students. It also allows for the analysis of the efficacy of your course curriculum. And in the future, we want to provide analysis tools for educators and give them the option to also analyze their conversations for the chatbots that they have. So a little bit more on our future goals. We want to build a quiz feature where students can basically just be like, quiz me to assess themselves and see how good they're performing on the course material so they can prepare for a test. We don't want this to be graded, but it should be ready. It should help students get ready. And we want to analyze, how, if these students use this feature, will it actually improve their performance and stuff like that. We also want to increase the accuracy when answering questions. We also want to add further conversational analysis tools, giving educators the option to analyze conversations. And we, in the future, want educators to be able to instantly create chatbots by uploading files. Right now, they have to fill out a form to create chatbots, but in the future, we want them to just be able to upload a file, and then the chatbot will automatically be able to be added into their next course. So thanks you so much for listening. That's all I have for the presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dylan and Armand. Armand, if you don't mind sharing your screen, please.
Okay.
Please join me in welcoming our second Project Talk speaker, Dr. Savita Prabhakar. Savita is a program manager of the Biotechnology program and an assistant professor at Frederick Community College in Maryland. She will present a wrap-up of her grant, Building a Cell Therapy and Flow Cytometry. Welcome,
It's my
Savita.
presentation. Thank you, Dion. My son has messed up my presentation. Dion, will it be possible for you to share what I sent?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I can share it because it's asking for a link.
Because it was my son. Okay. So hi, I'm Savita. I teach at Frederick Community College. Today I've just wrap up the results for our a new to ATE NSF grant, which was building the cell therapy and flow cytometry workforce. We got this grant in 2022, and this is our last year. So we're going to close in June. So as I said, our grant is focused on building a cell therapy workforce. And just as an introduction, I wanted to show what the current status of cell and gene therapy is. So in 2024, there was a 10%, it contributed to the total 10% market of cell C and CGT. And what is predicted in 2027 is it's going to go up to 10%. And as you can see that the most of the cell and gene therapy licensing is in the 27% in cell therapy, and gene therapy is 29%. And this was just a survey to see what people are feeling, the stakeholders in the cell and gene therapy industry, the innovators, the CDMOs, what they feel about this industry. Everybody still feels positive that they will be, we will see an increase in this industry, and we will need technicians to do the work. So keeping that in mind, when we start, and also this is just to show all the important players in the cell and gene therapy field: Kite Pharma, Catalent, AstraZeneca, BioNTech, Cartesian, Precision for Medicine. All these companies are located right here in Frederick. So it just made sense for our grant to focus on building a cell and gene therapy workforce. So when we started in 2022, we first built a build team, which is the business industry leadership team, and it included people from BioNTech, Precision for Medicine, Maggie from Montgomery Community College. And we built this build team to get an input on what our curriculum should look like. And we developed our curriculum for the course. And the way we designed it is our course would run every spring for 7.5 weeks. It would be a hybrid course with lecture online and the labs meeting twice a week for 2.5 hours. And we designed it in such a way that our cell culture class was just before for the flow cytometry class, so that students would take the skills that they learned in the first class to our flow class. So this is our lecture, what we developed, and we also followed the everything that was already developed before. So using that, we developed these lectures, which includes the history of cell and gene therapy, the steps involved in cell therapy manufacturing, and then we came down to flow, which was basically the analytical tool to analyze the results of the cell therapy of the cells. So the 7 labs that we developed were starting right from maintaining the flow cytometer, and then we had a lab for transforming with the GFP, transfection of the cells with GFP and looking at the fluorescence, and then we had the antibody staining, both single color and multicolor. So, and then we integrated this course that we developed through this grant into our pathway. It is a part of our associate's degree program. So it's a part of our apprenticeship program. We also have a cell therapy and a flow cytometry letter of recognition. So this is just 8 credits for students who take the cell therapy, cell culture class, and our cell therapy and flow cytometry class will get this letter of recognition. And we have a cell and gene therapy certificate. So the course is a part of this as well. And then we also had introduced it as a non-credit options for people who wanted to upscale themselves, and they would get digital badges. So everything basically contributes to the workforce and for cell and gene therapy. So we first got this BD Acuity C6 flow cytometer using our grant money, and developed the protocols for this using this instrument. And then meanwhile, we also got a donation from Lonza for FACSCanto 2, which is the clinical grade flow cytometer, and now we are developing protocols for this as well. So we started with 1 flow cytometer, now we have 2, and this is what we're going to use in our spring 2025 class. So this is the total outcome. So we offered this class in spring 2023, spring 2024, and now we are offering it currently in this time. So the number of students enrolled were 16, 17, and 13. We have 13 students enrolled in the class now. And this is just to separate that these are students who already have degrees. They're not part of my program, but they come to take this as to upskill themselves. So in 23, we had 6 students who were out of my course, and 24, we had 3. In spring 2025, one of the students is just taking the class to get the skill. So the results are, so in the first cohort, one of the students could not pass, but other than that, everybody else has passed the class and has gained the skill. So 25 results are still not there, but the outcomes as far as getting hired is concerned, 2 students got hired in 2023 after the class, but they were not hired for flow cytometry jobs, but they got more cell culture jobs. So it's not a direct outcome, but it still helped them getting jobs. And 2 students got promoted in their jobs, and one was interviewed to work at the flow core in National Cancer Institute right here in Frederick, but unfortunately she did not get the job. So this is the total outcome of our course. And so initially when we wrote the grant, we said that by the end of 3 years, we would have at least 20 students who would gain skills in flow cytometry. But actually now we have 45 students who would be gaining the skill. 33 students have gotten the letter of recognition in cell therapy and flow cytometry. 14 students have graduated, have gotten their associate's degree with this skill. So that is our outcome. And one of the other objectives of the grant, goal 1, was to see if the employers feel that they would have to provide less on-the-job training after they hire FCC graduates or completers. So this really did not happen as far as flow cytometry is concerned, but we have 13 students working at Kite as cell therapists. Hopefully once they get enough experience and they move into QC, they might get to work at in QC with flow cytometers. And 1 student was hired in biotech. 3 students, as I showed in the previous slide, got hired in the field. And our program definitely got a lot of visibility in the area. And we have gotten good feedback from the industry saying that our students are coming with the knowledge that's needed and they're doing well. And through this grant, even though we developed one course, cell therapy and flow cytometry, we also developed another course called Gene Therapy Fundamentals, and clubbed it with our other course, and we got a cell and gene therapy certificate approved by Maryland Higher Education. So it's an approved certificate. It's 20 credits in 3 semesters. Total cost is $3,300. So I think now we have 6 students enrolled in this certificate program. So hopefully it contributes to the workforce. So this is just to talk about how we have disseminated our curriculum so far. We were fortunate to be part of the writers group. Sandy was our mentor, and we were able to publish this work, whatever we did in the grant, in Journal of Advanced Technological Education. And this paper came out in last March. And we have 2 labs that we developed. The data for that lab, those 2 labs are in the paper. And we were also, our grant was featured in AT Impacts, which was given to everybody in the AT meeting in October. And we, the 2 of our protocols that are in the paper are also published, are also on AT Central. So that was also a method of dissemination. And we have, I shared the 7, the labs that we developed with Maggie in November, but, and we also ran one of these protocols in the cell and gene therapy bioman that Maggie runs. And we found that the protocol had some issues. So we are working on all the protocols to refine them, and then they'll be uploaded on NBC Squared. Now coming to goal 2, the goal 2 was to increase enrollments of both traditional and non-traditional students in our program. So this is just to show that we got the grant in 22. So by 22, with all the outreach that we could do, our program enrollments almost doubled. And after that, they have stayed pretty constant. The students have graduated, like more than 10 students have graduated from the program, but that has not affected our total numbers, showing us that new students are coming in, which is good. And then we had proposed that we would, at least 20 students would get enrolled in our dual enrollment course that's offered in Frederick High School, which Valerie teaches. Valerie is the co-PI of our grant, and she's the one who teaches at Frederick High School. And she offered this course in spring 23, 24, and 25. And total numbers of students that are so far enrolled in the course is 31. So we exceeded what we had said we would do in our grant. And other than that, we have done an outreach and almost impacted more than 3,300 students, telling them about cell and gene therapy, the impact, telling them what Kite is doing, which is right here in Frederick. So, and Valerie also done 2 after-school workshops, again, teaching students basic techniques as well as informing them about this cutting edge technology. So I just wanted to thank ATE as well as InnovATEBIO, NSF, and NBC Squared for all the help that I got to do all this work. And as Tracy had mentioned in the first presentation in this series, it's just the grant that we get, but it opens a lot more doors and a lot more collaborations and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Savita. And thank you to Dylan, Armand, and Savita for the presentations today. Both were so informative and engaging, and so I'm sure we have some questions. If you could either raise your hand or we can also go to the chat. So if Savita, I don't know if you and Armand will be sharing computers. I know that that.
Yeah.
And so I don't see any hands up right now. So let's go ahead and, oh, I'm sorry, Ying Su.
Yeah. Armand, that was great work. I have a question for you. So I'm curious about case studies. So let's say, for example, we have a case study about working in a manufacturing environment, and then there was a problem. Is there any way to extract that type of sort of answer for that? Like, so and so did something, maybe there was a spill.
Okay.
And then is there a way for the students to say, hey, what should I do next? Of course, clean up the spill, right? But and then having them think about, well, first, is it biohazardous? Is it glass? Is it blah, 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 blah? Is there any way to do something like that with Pat?
So if you have a document with, what you want to do, what you should do, then it will be able to answer any questions about whatever information is in the document, if that makes sense. So if you have, if you have a case study and you have like examples of what should be done and how the student should respond, then the student can ask for help and get help with that.
Okay. That's cool. If there's no questions, I'm going to ask another one. Savita, so question about the dual enrollment or the class that Valerie is teaching. She's got quite a few students in her classes. This is great.
Right.
Are they going to Frederick, or are they ending it at the high school level?
Yeah, they are not. So I have gotten only 3 students coming from her dual enrollment to FCC into biotech. And then 2 others have not done biotech, but they have done biology.
Okay.
So total 5.
Total of 5. And any reason why? Do you know any reason, or is there speculation, or just curious?
I think they just have other plans. They think they want to do, go into medicine or pharmacy. And one of the girls started, but then she wanted to do phlebotomy, so she just moved.
Okay.
Yeah. But there is interest in the school.
Yeah, it's good.
And since it's a hands-on, like she's doing both lecture and lab, I think students like that and they're taking it. But why they're not coming into our program is something we have to dig deeper.
Yeah, that's a $64,000 question, because
Yeah.
that's the problem with a lot of the programs that are out there.
Sorry, the presentation finished too fast.
Okay, great. I have another question, but go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, Sapata, I was wondering about your boot camps. Are you
Yeah, the
getting any are you getting any people enrolled in your program that come from the boot camps?
So lately, the people that we have in our boot camps have already gotten degrees. So they are coming to take 1 or 2 classes because they got interested. But the last 2 boot camps have been very successful, and they all have gotten jobs. So they don't have to take any more classes. They're okay, I think, for the moment. But I do have at least like 7 students who in all, like we have done so far, 62 students have graduated from our boot camps, and 7 students have come into the program. So the very first program, we had 4 students who came in and they were actually hired as apprentices. So that was successful in the first round. But after that, the number of students coming into our program has been less.
That brings me to another question. So are you polling the students that come into your program to find out some of the things that attracted them? Like, I'm wondering if the apprenticeship attracted students, for example.
Yeah, but the industry is not taking any more apprentices at the moment. So when they were hired, so when they were hired, it was coincidental that they were taking apprentices and they hired these people as apprentices.
Mhm.
So it's not happened after that.
I see.
Yeah,
So
industry
not
is
a great draw. If there's
No.
not the opportunity, you can't use that as a marketing tool.
Right. Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Savita, do you know why that is? Are they just is it just because of retraction a bit on their part in general, the companies, or
Yeah, the
why?
people, yeah, like when we started, Kite was one of our main employers who was interested in apprenticeship, but the person who was leading it left. And I think
Oh,
nobody after that took, that initiative to keep it going. So the current apprentices are there, they're finishing, but after they finish, whether they'll take more or not, that's the question. And then Lonza is the other apprenticeship partner. They're not doing so well, so they're not taking apprentices. And Logic is a small company. They have 2, but yeah, they have not gotten in touch with us. So we do have a meeting coming up where we want to ask them and try to see if they can take more apprentices. But I think it's just lack of leadership and initiative and all the chaos that's inside the companies. Yeah.
very common.
There is a question for you about whether those were registered apprenticeships.
Yes, this is a registered apprenticeship at Maryland's Department of Labor. Yes. 2,000 hours on the job and related instruction.
So Savita, with the end of the grant, your programs are sustainable though, right? Valerie will keep teaching her during roll class, and you're teaching and then you're also creating the new lessons for the new machine. So that's
Right.
good. Yeah. You have support, hopefully.
Yeah. And the program is inbuilt into our program pathway, right? So I mean the course is inbuilt into our program, so it'll pay for itself. Yeah.
So, Savita, you mentioned about going through your presentation quickly. So, this is for you, Dylan, and Armand. If any of you want to add anything in addition to what you already shared, we still have 20 minutes.
The only thing I would add is if anyone has questions, or if you want to test out how the material would work for you, just let us know, and we'll be happy to build a chatbot for you that you can test out. Because what we really want, right, is we want people to test it, because that's how we'll understand what our accuracy is, and that's an emphasis that Armand has really placed on this, is ensuring accuracy. So the more we can get it tested under different conditions with different kinds of material, the better and more robust the software tool will become. So we certainly welcome any requests. And the largest document that I've been able to build a chatbot on is about 350 pages. So it's a PDF with 350 pages. And I've also built them with PowerPoints that's just made of images and text embedded in the images. And so, there's a number of these kinds of cases that I sort of see as edge cases that, we'd love to continue to test. So any materials you have would be welcome to try it out and let you play with it.
Yeah, and I can add that I have used it in my classes and students have given me great feedback. And I can see the questions they ask. Sometimes they ask questions about a wrapper and then the chatbot says, yes, I cannot answer it. So it's nice to see what questions the students are asking and how they're trying to learn. And they've told me that the summary that comes out, that's pretty useful if they don't want to go through. And I've even told them to put PDF papers and get the information, for discussion boards. So students have given me a lot of positive feedback.
And I've been doing that. I had to read 10 papers in the last couple of days. I gave it to the chatbot and I asked it to summarize and integrate and synthesize, across these papers. And so, I'm using it as a useful tool, not in an educational, situation, but just for my work. So, I think there's a lot of utility that can be realized from tools like this.
Michael, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna write it in the chat. Savita, Armand, thank you for the presentations. Really interesting. That first tool, I think, will be really helpful for a lot of students. I'm curious, Savita, it sounds like you have a robust enrollment in Valerie's high school course. So even though you're not getting a lot of matriculation there, do you feel like that helps you with your administration in terms of how they view your program as a whole? Does it matter to them that you have robust high school enrollment? Does that come up in your conversation? Does that help you make the case for continuing, what you're doing?
I don't necessarily know that it's making a big difference. We do have a high school internship in our program where the high school students come to FCC and they, do this 101, 103, which are the introductory courses, as well as a research project. So that program is coming more and under attention from our administration than the dual enrollment, because the dual enrollment is pretty similar across all biology, chemistry. And our dual enrollment is only in one high school. So we are trying to increase it to other high schools to see if other teachers can do it. But the problem is the teachers don't have the time to teach another course. But they are willing, they like to do it, but they just don't have the time to do it. But our own administration at FCC, no, they don't have any. They haven't noticed that.
Does FCC get apportionment for those students?
Yes, it's a dual enrollment. So yes, they do get it.
Right. So, okay. Right. Because
yeah,
here,
it adds to our...
there's special dual enrollment in California. Their apportionment is 1.5 per student. So it's a net gain for the college. And so it's kind of incentivizing those programs. And I think here, it matters to some colleges we're working with because it's increasing their enrollment, despite the fact that they may not be getting the preparation to in this example of the program. So I was just curious if that was your experience.
Yeah, we are getting the FTE from those students, but yeah, they haven't paid attention to it. Biotech is so small and everybody just thinks it's an expensive program draining money, but our assessment has shown that it is giving them profit. So hopefully it'll change, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the irony. It's here locally, at our college, it's proven biotechnology, the dual enrollment classes are popular. The students want to take them amongst a group of students who are typically going to four-year schools. So it's this odd, it is an attractive course for the courses for the college to offer because they're getting apportionment, but there's still the challenge of figuring out how to get them to matriculate. So it was just interesting.
Yeah, how to get them into our program, that's the question.
Yes. Right.
Sandy, your hand is up.
Thanks. Savita, I was wondering what you're thinking about doing next.
I don't know. I've just today the excellent grant still has to go. It hasn't gone yet. So I'm like, yeah, just waiting to send that. Yeah, like ATE, I don't know. It'll be sad to leave the community because I learned so much. But yeah, I have to get a new idea. The flow is good, but then you know how to take it further because the industry is not hiring them for those skills, right? So that's why, yeah, any ideas would be great.
Well, now I don't know about some of you, but I'm just learning about AI and learning how to use it in my job. And so, one of the things that I would hear about from instructors is that the fear of plagiarism. But Dylan, you and Armand showed the usefulness of it and how they can apply that to learn. And so my question is,
Plagiarism.
how do you think that changes instruction? Savita had, or can't remember, maybe it was you, Dylan. I'm sorry. I think Dylan,
Hmm.
yeah, you had mentioned that you're able to see the students' questions and what they're
Right.
looking up, and so
Yeah.
that
Yeah. So from a practical standpoint, I've spoken to a lot of computer science professors that, encounter this, right? And the biggest change is they have to change their assessment. They have to change how they're assessing their students and what their students are learning. They can no longer just evaluate if a program works, right? Because that's really easy to get help. They don't believe you can avoid this. It's so pervasive that it's clear that it's not something they should ignore. So instead, they're embracing it, and they're looking for ways on how to change their assessment so that they're looking at what the students are actually understanding and learning, and they believe in the long term, it'll make them understand things better because they have to, because the assessments are going to require them to, because it's no longer does the program work or not. It's, what can you change to achieve this other outcome, and how much they understand that. So I think that's one big area that's really important. And but and this the question of plagiarism, or having the AI just do all of your work for you, I think that is something that should be addressed, but it should be taken on. And I've worked with certain faculty on campuses, and I've asked them that to give me a summary of a topic that we're trying to work into a grant or something. And in some cases, what I've gotten back was a straight summary from ChatGPT. And it's obvious they didn't put any thought into it. They asked ChatGPT to give them the answer, and they gave me the answer exactly as was given them. And you can tell because of the way it's formatted. So I think it's even, sort of a mindset and cultural change that we also have to embrace, that, a lot of these AI tools are great as tools, but they should never be a substitute for anything that you're doing, right? And you know, I do use it, for example, to make sure that I've covered all the topics I need to. I learned the most about quantum mechanics by asking ChatGPT. I mean, I've studied it 4 or 5 times in my career, and I always forget, and I never really embraced it and understood it until I spent a couple of days, with ChatGPT, just asking it the questions that I had about quantum physics and quantum mechanics. And so it resulted in a different kind of learning. So I think there's a lot of potential there, but there's a lot of things that we still have to learn to manage. But the best way to learn to manage it is to understand it well and understand where the problems are, and not to try to ignore it or regulate it away, because I don't think you can do that at this stage. The Pandora's been let out of the box. I mean, I think we need to embrace it.
That is true. Aaron, I mean, Armand, did you have anything to add to that, using it as a student and the perceptions of your instructors?
Yeah, I think that honestly, using it to learn is a lot more useful than, just using it to do your assignments for you, or maybe even like I just feel like whenever I've used AI, I use it more as a tool to learn. And one thing that we do, one goal and idea that we've had for Pat is to make it more of like a conversational interaction over a, just ask the question, receive the answer. We wanted to provide additional context, really get the student, even if they just read it, they'll be able to learn and, further engage with the chatbot, if that makes sense.
Right. Thank you for your responses. So I do not see any other hands up, and I believe all of the questions in the chat have been answered. Also, I just put the evaluation link in the chat. Again, please complete that at your earliest convenience, and